All right, we are good to go.
Awesome. All right, well, welcome everyone. This is a beautiful Saturday here in Northeast Ohio. Looks like we have mostly Northeast Ohioans, Cuyahoegans on the call today, but we're also streaming live on Facebook, so I'm sure we'll have some folks tuning in through our Facebook group as we go. So welcome everybody. My name's Tristan. I'm the Ohio Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. So I oversee the programs here in the state. We also have on Eric, who is our Go Solar lead here, coordinator, and he helps the co-op move forward. Odds are, if you're going to join a co-op, we'll be talking to Eric or I pretty consistently through the process, and we're available pretty consistently through the process. So we'll talk about today, we'll get into what the solar co-op is, but first we want to talk a little bit about solar, what it is, how it works, the economics, if it's right for you, and we'll talk about how Solar United Neighbors does their co-op process. So without further ado, I will go ahead and sort out presenting this. And then share my screen. So, y'all see that okay?
Yep, all set.
Perfect. All right, well, again, I'm Tristan. I'm here with Solar United Neighbors. Here's a few things before we get too far. This isn't really pertain to us because we're going to keep people unmuted as you come into the thing or able to unmute yourself. So feel free to just unmute yourself if you have a question at any point. Stop me, and not a big deal at all. I appreciate when people ask questions because it'll help guide the discussion. Sometimes I miss things and skip things too, or if something's unclear, please stop me. Let's explain it. It'll probably benefit the whole group. So we'll keep it kind of informal like that. Solar United Neighbors has been around since 2007, actually. It was formed in Washington, D.C. This is our executive director up here, Anya Schoolman. When she wanted to go solar back then in 2007, more than 10 years ago now, and couldn't really figure out how. Nobody in her neighborhood had done it. Nobody in DC had really done it since, Carter, right? Back in the 70s. So she had to figure it out. She found an installer, but figured out there's a lot of red tape, a lot of problems, trying to figure out through the city what to do. So what she did was she spent a whole year, negotiating and figuring out how to get this done on her roof. And at one point she just threw her hands up and said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to take my whole neighborhood with me. Why am I just doing all this work, this research? She was a researcher. She worked for foundations across the country. And she said, why am I using all this time when I could be helping all my neighbors do the same thing, right? So she sent her kids out knocking door to door and got them to enroll the whole community in what she called the first solar cooperative. We call them now solar co-ops, and ended up taking 34 or 35 people, something like that, in her neighborhood. And it's the Mount Pleasant neighborhood, I think, in Washington, D.C., solar. Other folks heard about it, and before long they had done a solar co-op in every district or every ward in the District of Columbia. So from there they moved to all kinds of places all over the country. So and in Ohio we've been around since 2016 doing this work. So it's been a phenomenal ride. We've helped over 5,000 people now go solar through these cooperative models. We're pulling people together, helping them go solar together. But our goal as an organization is that we are the community of people that are trying to start this whole new energy system, right? And using distributed rooftop solar as that cornerstone. After we help people go solar, we want to help you stick together and advocate for your rights to continue to produce energy on your own and help other people go solar too. So we do some advocacy, 501c3, and we love what we do. So again, today we'll cover what is solar technology, the economics, and then a little bit more about how the solar co-op works. So the tech. Solar technology has come a long way, but let's get a little bit of background on what it is right now. And when we talk about solar, we're referring to photovoltaic solar. That is the type of solar power that takes the sun's energy and converts it into electricity, right? There's other kinds of solar power like solar heating, solar, passive solar, different improvements you can make. But this is specifically about photovoltaic, converting sunlight into electricity on your roof. Components, well, you need the sun first. That's the first component, right? So believe it or not, we have plenty of sun here in Ohio, plenty to make this work. And solar panels or a solar array that will go on your system, made up of several solar panels. Then you need an inverter. an inverter converts that direct current energy to alternating. So you can use it in your appliances in your house. And then your actual panel, which is already there, 90%, I'd say, 80 or 90% of panels will work just fine for this. So there rarely needs to be any sort of upgrade if you've got a modern electrical panel. And then the meter, which will have to be swapped out for a digital bidirectional meter, which is the utility provides here in Cuyahoga County. All right, so those are the components. Firstly, you need solar panels, right? So a solar panel is made up of 60 of these individual solar cells, which are thin wafers of silicon, and they're doped with what it's called with 2 different chemicals, phosphorus and bromine. And the way that they're done, it allows the sun to create an electric current when it's absorbed into these cells. So these are all strung together, and they're sandwiched between, encapsulated in a layer of basically lamination, right? They're laminated. And then they're sandwiched between another 2 layers of a tempered glass, and then it's surrounded or encased by an anodized aluminum frame. This whole unit is about 3 feet by 5 feet and weighs about 50 pounds. And a solar array can be made up of anywhere from 3 of these to just about an unlimited number of solar panels can be connected. So it usually is only restricted by the size of your roof and your energy need. And they're fairly light, so most roofs, if not all roofs, can bear that weight. They weigh much less than, a snow-covered roof, basically. So that's the solar panel. Those solar panels then are connected on a roof into what we call an array, like we said. A couple other terms that are good to remember and good to keep straight as we move forward. Kilowatt is a power rating or a size of a system, like we have a light bulb that's 6 watts, maybe a 6-watt LED light bulb. Kilowatt hour is a measurement of an amount or amount of energy. So a kilowatt hour is how much energy you're going to use over a span of time. And it's what your electricity bill is metered in kilowatt hours used. So for example, if you take a system like this, which we'll assume each of these panels is 300 watts, if you take a system like that where there's 12 of them, you're going to get a 3.6 kilowatt, 1,000 watt system, right? And over the course of 1 hour, if this system were in the sun facing the right direction and it tilted at the right angle, it would produce 3.6 kilowatt hours in 1 hour, right? So a 3 kilowatt size system over the course of an hour in the sun is going to produce 3.6 kilowatt hours. That's the math. So just to reiterate, systems are measured in kilowatts. Electricity produced and stored is measured in kilowatt hours, okay? And homes are generally between 2 and 12 kilowatt size systems. And in Cuyahoga County, since most of us here in Cuyahoga, the average is somewhere around 5.5 kilowatt size system. My roof has a 6.1 kilowatt size system, and it covers 100% of my energy need. Most homes go between 20 and 80% of the energy need covered by a solar system. You can easily go up to 100. You don't want to do too much less than that because it starts getting a little more expensive to do per watt to do a system that's smaller because of the overhead costs of an inverter and the time and equipment and time and energy it takes to install. So that's that. Any questions so far? It's a lot of information in a short period of time.
I actually do have a question,
Sure.
but I don't know if this is the appropriate time. So if you were going to talk about it, like, it can wait. I've been just doing some like reading and thinking about all of this, and with such a cloudy region, some of the things that I've read encourage people to use indirect versus direct solar panels, and I just didn't know if you could talk about that a little bit, or if that's kind of a moot point. Yeah,
there's 2 types of solar, basically. There's multi-phase and single phase, where both sides of the solar panel will like absorb sunlight. Well, in Ohio, there's not too much a difference, really. It all breaks down to economics of being able to capture enough light to generate enough electricity to make it worth your money. And what we're seeing with systems like this, regular single phase sort of direct sunlight systems, non-passive, this is an active type system that's converting energy, sun to electricity. You're seeing a payback period of around 10 or 11 years on that. Other types of technology that cost more, you'll see here in a little bit. The co-ops at least are able to get these solar systems around $250, $260 a watt. installed. That's what it costs gross to get a solar system like the one there on the screen next to that Shadow Man installed. So if you're looking at other types of more sort of advanced technologies, higher efficiency type technologies, the costs are quite a bit more, and it's harder to justify that for a 10%, efficiency gain, basically. So that's about all I have to say on that. Yeah. So these are the tried and true technologies we're talking about that have been around a long time. They've kind of been refined to the point and are at a price point that makes the most sense for most people. Good question.
Tristan, just so you know, we've got a few more attendees with us. So welcome to everyone who's joined in the last few minutes. I'm going to allow you to talk as well, so you'll have the ability to toggle on your microphone throughout this if you want to cut in at any point with some questions.
Wonderful. And thank you. Thanks for hopping on, y'all. So yeah, feel free to hop in. We'd love to choose your own adventure here. If you want to go a different direction with this, I just want to fill in your gaps of knowledge on this stuff. So we'll keep plugging away. The more things are needed than a solar panel, right? To make this work, you need a racking system, which is just the bracing that goes on your roof and the flashing and things to attach that to the roof. And there's a couple different technologies depending on the type of roof. We'll get into that. Also, you'll need some kind of optimizer or microinverter. Right now, all the co-ops we have running in the state offer standard microinverters in the base level package. So that's a good thing. Microinverters are just inverters that go on your roof. So they, like we said in that photograph, we saw the inverter on the side of the house. These inverters will actually convert that DC energy from the sun to AC right on your roof. And then that conduit comes down and goes directly into your panel from the roof. Unless you have a battery, then you need some kind of charge controller. But the other type of inverter, which are available, at least in the Cuyahoga Co-op, as well as some others, are the string inverters. I have a string inverter on my house, which means that power is coming down off your roof in DC. And then it's being converted in my basement by this box that converts that to alternating current. As far as efficiencies and things, there's not much of a difference. There's some benefits to microinverters where if one dies, one goes down, the whole system can keep running, basically, save that one system, save that one microinverter. So it's a little more, I guess, a little better in that regard. Optimizers allow each panel to act individually, so they kind of do some of the work of a microinverter. They don't convert the energy to AC, but they allow each panel to be controlled and monitored individually when you're using a string inverter. Every time you use a string inverter, there's going to be optimizers because it has to. In fact, you see this guy. This is actually my roof, a picture of my roof. Gentleman installing the railing. You can see there some of the actual optimizers that are going to be used to control each panel. Here's a system that's attached to, looks like a shake roof. So slightly different mounting technologies, but it works. In fact, here's flashings used often for mounting on shingles, asphalt. There's ballasted systems for flat roofs that are just weighted down, non-penetrating, roof penetrating, standing off beams that actually stand-off beams that actually span the roof and are held up by like wall supports or other load-bearing structures. Clamps work on standing seam roofs. Again, non-penetrating, they just clamp onto the standing seam itself. Pull pockets work on low-pitched roofs or flat roofs. They just install these kind of block-looking things that the system kind of slides into. Easy to remove too. So the thing about the ballast and the pull pockets, we've been reading a lot lately. And these allow the system to be moved for roof work or other things, which is great. Really easy. And actually all systems are removable. They're not attached to your roof permanently, which actually allows you to they're not included in the property tax value of your house. So that's a positive. There's a ballasted system. That's in Cleveland, actually. And here is a ground mount system, one of ours. I forget where this is, though. I think it's in Ohio. So a couple things to take in consideration. Roof is a big one. Roof age, making sure you have at least 10 or 15 years of life left in that roof. You can remove the system and have your roof done, but it's at some cost, right? It can be anywhere from $500 a kilowatt up down to a couple $100 per kilowatt. to have the systems removed and then replaced once the roof's done. So better to have your roof done first if it needs to be replaced. That's all we're looking at in that picture. Shading, you want to make sure that, in fact, we were just talking with a gentleman on the call here living in Lakewood who, unfortunately, some trees had to come down in his neighborhood, and now he's got some sun, and why not use that sun? So make sure, well, and one thing we do at Sun, Solar United Neighbors, is we'll do a roof evaluation to make sure your roof is suitable for solar once you join the co-op, and you'll get an email pretty much right away in the next couple of days that says whether the roof is going to be qualified or pre-qualified or almost qualified or whatever it is for solar. So something we do to kind of initially get you in and make sure your roof is right. Spacing, you want to make sure that there's enough space and the roof spacing in the right direction, right? So if it's facing south, that's the best type of roof. East and west works as well. My roof is actually east-west facing, and it certainly still pans out. Yeah. Any questions about that? Roofs are usually a high question topic. Ground mount systems, another high question topic. Feel free to put them in the chat too if you want to do that, and Eric will read it out because I can't see the chat when I'm talking. Okay. All right, so like we said, the solar panels feed your inverter, DC, or the microinverter, same concept. And then that feeds your appliances AC power. Another thing that it does is it allows when you're overproducing at any given moment during the day, you're producing more energy than you're using. Because of something called net metering here in Ohio, you are actually getting a credit, and that energy is going back out to the grid, and you're getting credit for it. So what that looks like, in fact, I'll even play this here. This is my meter before they swapped that out for a digital meter. Remember I said they had to swap them out, but the couple of days between, I turned the system on so you all could see this. This is the meter running backwards as I'm pumping energy back out into the grid. So the deal is you're actually just billed for the amount of electricity you used subtracted from the amount of electricity that you produce, right? So you're only going to pay for what you use over what you produce. So it's pretty good deal here in Ohio. If you produce over the course of a few months, you produce more electricity than you've used over those months, you'll get something called a true up, and usually you get about 5 cents per kilowatt hour on that true up. So I just got mine yesterday. Yeah, I got a check in the mail for $20. It was my overproduction for the last couple of months. So not so bad. Every year around that time, around in July, there'll be a true up, and then you start banking those credits as you move forward. The good thing is there's a couple of sunny months here in the summer. After the true up, you can bank those credits. In fact, the next slide shows this. You can bank those credits, and then over the course of the rest of the year, you can draw down on those credits. Basically, you use the negative balance on your utility bill to pay your utility bill through the winter. So if you size your system correctly, you should be able to offset a good deal, if not all of your utility usage. Pretty cool. I think I give a little bit, yeah. So what happens if the grid goes down? That's a big question, comes up a lot. Can I use my solar power to power my home? And as you see here, it kind of grayed out the AC arrow there to the house. So what happens when the grid goes down, your solar system has to self-isolate, which means there's a emergency shutoff switch that has to be kicked over to off. So your system has to go down when the grid is down, so that you're not, back filling power onto the grid and potentially putting line workers at risk of electrocution or shock. So your system has, but there's a way around it. If you have something like a battery that allows your system to be isolated from the grid, but then fills in sort of the gaps and evens out your power usage throughout the day, you can actually produce energy and use it and not have to have the grid as a backup. A couple different, and acts basically like a generator. That's why I have a picture of a generator there. Solar can also work with a generator if that's something you're interested in. Some folks already have generators that they use for backup because their grids are unstable where they live. And then they add batteries as sort of a way to not use the generator so much, or a way to replace the generator. So that's an option. There's some components that go into it. Every co-op offers some type of battery or some type of power wall, and a couple considerations too. I think I have the slide. Yeah, that you want to think about batteries. If you have frequent outages, you might want to do a battery system. If you have a lot of emergency needs, water pumps, things like that, floodplains, medical equipment that always needs to stay on, batteries are good for that. Disaster preparedness, time of use isn't a big deal here yet, but eventually utilities will be charging more during peak hours when there's high demand for energy. So if you have a battery, you can be using a battery instead of paying higher rates during those peak hours. Again, it's not a thing that's happening yet, but we know that the utilities are gearing up to do time of use in the next few years. So, and it's actually a good thing. It encourages people to use less power during those peak times. And batteries can help you maintain, your energy usage. Not a bad deal. Disadvantages, they do, they're not free. They're certainly cost. And there is some maintenance, I guess, after 5 or 7 years, maybe some cells you need to replace. And they're not very complex, honestly. They kind of sit there and do the same thing with your solar system and produce energy for you. They're far less complex than a generator as far as what you need to do to keep them maintained and the involvement you'll have. There's basically 2 types. I put on this slide 2 pictures of 2 types. LG Chems, the Teslas are lithium-ion technology, and then you also still can get lead-acid type batteries that are sealed, so they're safe with no fumes or anything. Put them in your basement, but they require some tending, and they're not quite as robust as lithium-ion, and usually they're only warranted for a few years, if at all, because of just how quickly they wear out compared to lithium-ion batteries. But they're usually a lot less expensive. So, and importantly to note, the 26% tax credit, we'll get to the economics in a second, but the 26% tax credits that you get on your solar system does apply to batteries if they're fed by a solar array. So you can actually get a 26%, for lack of a better term, discount on your solar system. Get that money back in a non-refundable tax credit, including the batteries, which is cool. Any questions on that? Batteries are...
So we do have a few questions in the chat, which I can read out now. So one question wondering if you can do an install on a garage or only on homes?
Good. So homes and in garages are perfectly, as long as the roofs are somewhat able to bear the weight of the system, modern garage would be perfectly fine. And especially if the garage has a panel in it already. Otherwise, the solar installer can certainly run conduit out there. It's not a big deal. They may charge for trenching if it's over a certain amount of feet, but certainly an option.
Great. And then does the co-op assist in assessing the viability of my location for sun exposure / determine hours of sun exposure, etc.?
Why don't you answer that one? Eric, you're the one that does the assessment.
Yeah, sure. So we will absolutely help you in kind of figuring out if it looks like you have a good site for solar. So when you join the co-op, and Tristan is going to be covering this a little bit more at the end of the presentation, but essentially you sign up and give some basic contact information, answer some questions about your home and roof, and you also will give your address. So we are able to look at your home through Google Maps, just get a basic kind of look at it through satellite imaging. So we will absolutely be able to kind of do a preliminary look and see if we think it's good, just in terms of, the orientation of the roof. We do check out if there's any trees or nearby structures that may obstruct sun from reaching your roof. So we check for shading and things like that. In terms of hours of sun exposure, we don't really get too much into the weeds, but our kind of precursory look at the roof is definitely good enough for us to pass along to installers. And then at that point, they kind of take over from there, and they'll do a more in-depth analysis of your home and be able to provide and draw up a system for you that'll match all of your needs.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Let's see. Yep. We have one. Solarestimate.org gives an estimate based on my current bill, approximately $90 per month. Utilities, AEP, size of south-facing roof saying 21 panels for 7.3 kilowatts, giving 109% offset. Does that seem right?
That seems right. Because my system's 6.1, and I don't have a bill that's that high. So I have like a $70 or $80 bill a month. So, and my 6.1 kilowatts covers my energy need about 100%. So you're a little bit big. You go up to 120%. That's why they're oversizing a little bit. If you go over 120%, you're in some risk there of being treated differently by the utility and not getting the benefit of net metering. But yeah, as long as you're around that 100, 110 mark, and that seems about right. 7.3 kilowatts for a $90 bill.
Okay, and then one final question, wondering if we have any experience dealing with Tesla solar shingles.
Not the shingles for sure not. Occasionally, installers will offer the solar Tesla panels, which are the only ones that are really available anywhere besides California. There's no installers that are certified to install Tesla solar shingles in Ohio, and we don't anticipate that anytime soon. Yep, good questions. So we'll keep on plugging on here. So EVs. One thing that the co-ops are doing now too is we're making sure that folks know that solar and EV technology has gotten better, and there's a lot more integration between the two. So if you have an EV, I have a plug-in hybrid. I know a lot of folks that get solar have EVs already or are considering them. That there is some things out there that help fill the gap or actually help these two technologies talk and work together better. So one of the things that are offered in our co-ops that we will make sure we build in is that every installer offers some kind of EV charging solution. One of the better ones out there is SolarEdge's EV charger that attaches to their inverter. So as the sun is, beating on your solar panels and drumming up that DC power, it's getting converted and inverted, and you can filter it directly into your vehicle through this EV charger inverter combo. So that's something that's offered. A couple more facts about EVs. Most of these level 2 chargers require 240 volts. When they're installing your solar system, if you're getting an inverter, part of the deal would be that you'll work out installation of 240 volt outlets, which is great, and then we built into the proposals, into the bids. Just sort of FYI, generally cars get about 10 to 30 miles on a charge or per hour when charging, and it depends on the vehicle and the amperage. There's a variety of types and units, and usually the warranties, people are really interested in warranties, are 3 years on the charging devices, but on inverters they're usually closer to 10 or 12 years on an inverter. So this particular inverter has like a 10-year, I think SolarEdge is a 10-year warranty. Is that right, Eric? Is it 10? It might be more now. But the inverter part of it only is, the charging portion of it is only warranted to 3 or 5 years. It's much less, mainly due to wear and tear. So people are really interested in knowing that kind of stuff before they move forward, so we want to make sure you are aware. Level 2 charging, again, is at 240 watt. You see here, it's making sure you, when you do a solar system too, make sure that you let your installer know some things about what you want to do in the future, even if you're just thinking about it. Let them know that you may want to do an EV at some point in the future, or that you want to do battery storage so they can place your solar system and they can make sure that it's going to feed the right things and that it's going to be in the right place so that you can expand that and you can add that charger easily, or that you can add that battery. So making sure that you let them know that is super important. For EV chargers, you're looking anywhere from $500 to $700 for the unit itself for a decent level 2 charger. That's one of the sort of name brand charging systems, and the cost for plus install could be anywhere around $1,000. I wouldn't see it as high as $2,700, but there's some options out there. Some more advantages to EVs: you can drive on the sun, quite awesome, right? Fewer moving parts than a regular car, easy to maintain, no oil, no fewer brake jobs. There's a great community here in Ohio, particularly with EVs. You'll find a lot of friends here that have EVs. In fact, they meet here in Lakewood occasionally for their Drive Electric Week. was at the last one, and it's like just a bunch of Teslas and Leafs and all these great electric cars. And I joke that it's like a muscle car show, except these cars are actually fast, right? These EVs are way faster, especially the Teslas. Blow the doors off a petroleum car most days, right? Run a sub 10, seriously. So there's also range anxiety is this big deal that I think people scares them away from EVs, where they don't think they're going to be able to go very far. There are ways around that, and I think it really is. We're getting to the point now where that's no longer really an argument against EVs because of the tools you have to charge and multiple charging options out there, and also direct chargers that are out there, direct DC charging that can actually get your car charged 100 miles in as little as a half an hour, right? So there's a lot of options depending on the amperage and stuff of the direct charging system. So there's all kinds of things out there that can alleviate that risk. So no better time. And there's still a $7,500 credit, tax credit, federal tax credit in most EVs. So still a good time. So let's get into the economics portion. In fact, is there any questions about electric vehicles before we move forward? I know we kind of breeze through that.
Yeah, we have a couple questions in the chat. The first one, wondering if the co-op can help figure out whether my home is in a historic area. If I need to install solar panels on the front, I'm not sure if the city would like that.
Yeah, if you're in Ohio particularly, if you're in Cuyahoga particularly, or any place, I'll figure it out. So if you want to send me an email, if you're concerned about that. If you're in Cuyahoga, probably no. But let's take that offline. If you have a question, feel free to send me an email. I'll give my contact info at the end, and I can tell you what the rules and regs are at that particular location. HOAs are a big deal too. Some HOAs are friendly to solar, some aren't. So if you have a specific question, let us know. We can look into it.
And then another question, wondering, can you charge batteries from solar and then effectively charge an EV from those batteries?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can plug your electric vehicle into, and if you, little homework, if you want to go to YouTube and just Google, EV charging and solar, solar Tesla Powerwall or solar powered home, anything like that. I watched a video not too long ago of a gentleman who decided to get a bunch of Tesla Powerwalls and pretty much went off grid in a suburban place. I think it was somewhere out west, but still he was able to charge his cars and run his home and do everything off of the Tesla Powerwalls. LG Chems do the exact same thing. You can do it with any type of battery, you just have to do that. Because yeah, you can certainly charge your vehicles from the batteries. And soon we're gonna have something called C2G, car to grid technology, where your EVs are able to act as the battery for your home. So the battery in your electric vehicle would be the battery that would supply your home, and you'd set it so that it certainly would run out, and you'd have enough solar ostensibly that it would fill your car to a point where you'd still have enough power to get around. But that's a new technology, not really something we're seeing much yet, but in the next couple of years I think we'll see more on that front. That's the future, I think, because you have a battery parked in your car in your garage, right? You have a giant battery. If you have an EV, giant battery that could be doing a lot of work when it's just sitting there not doing anything. So that's the thought. Great question. Anything else, Eric?
Nope, that's it for now.
Good questions. So economics, this is specifically related to solar, right? So we're going back to the solar systems specifically, and not really to do with batteries yet. We can talk a little bit more about battery economics, but this is about just a pure solar system. The costs have come down a lot, right? This is $70, used to be closer to close to $80 a watt is what it costs. Way back when. Over the last 30 years, we've seen things come down quite a bit from, the tens of dollars per watt down to now we're closer to installed for things here in Ohio, $2.50 to $3 a watt is where we're at. In fact, here's a better graph. This is nationwide, but since 2010, the national average was $6.50 a watt installed. That's gross, right? That's how much, let's say a 5 kilowatt size system is the example we use over here, would be to install before the tax incentive, before any kind of additional costs associated with that. That's gross. And generally even including tax, sales tax and everything, which I learned. So that's the gross cost. That's the check you're gonna write at the end of the thing. you're going to get some of that money back in your tax, non-refundable tax credit the following year. But here in Ohio right now, we're closer to $2.50 per watt. So the co-ops running right around there. Some places in the country have cheaper solar, like California and in Florida. They're closer to $2 a watt. So we see the national average is a little bit less than here in Ohio. But it's not a bad rate for solar, and obviously the co-ops do a little bit better because we're able to sort of compete, use competition to our advantage and get a bulk discount. All right, tax credit. This is one of the more important topics of the whole conversation here. This year, the federal government's offering a 26% non-refundable tax credit for all solar systems and batteries that are fed by solar. That means that next year you'll be able to claim, or over the next 5 years, it's a one-time tax credit you can take over a number of years if you don't have a tax liability. You're going to get 26% of that back. So if you have a system that costs $19,250, next year you're going to get a check, part of your refund of $5,005. And assuming you have that tax liability, it's a credit, but it's non-refundable, meaning you do have to have the tax liability. Next year, that's going to step down to 22%. In the following year, 2022, unless it's extended, which we're fighting for, unless it's extended, it's going to step down to 0. So then there will be no more tax credit after next year. So any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. The state doesn't offer any type of direct incentive like that. They do have something called Eco-Linked Loan Program, which offers you up to 3% subsidized of your home equity loan, basically, or any type of loan that can be used for home improvement uses. And that is a pretty decent discount, especially now. It can get your rate close to 1%. I've seen as low as 1.9% a few months ago. Somebody used a similar product here in Cuyahoga County. Those of us in Cuyahoga County also have the county help loan, which is a little more restrictive in that you can't have a home value over $250,000, but you could still get that 3% reduction of your APR on your home equity loan. Okay. Over the last few years, we've seen solar grow a lot too. So the dark blue here at the bottom of all of these columns are the residential solar. Just over the last 2017, 2018, the third quarter, 2019, I could probably find an updated version of this by now. We're over 10 megawatts installed just in those 3 quarters of 2019, which is great. You'll see that, and why this starts at 2010 is because before 2010, you would have to have a different scaled map that you can see solar. CPACE came on, the Commercial Property Assessed Tax Program, around 2010, and it allowed for utility scale and non-residential solar to kind of explode, and that's when it hit. So that program really helped grow those 2 markets, and then we've seen sort of a natural growth, if you include the federal tax credit, almost natural growth of solar over the last few years as well, residential solar. So in Ohio, we went over 5,000 installs in just 2019 in those 3 quarters. So that's a lot. When we're talking about 2016, 2015, 1,000 or less installs. Pretty neat. So what's that mean for you, right? Now, well, that was the big picture, sort of what's going on. So let's say that the Ohio co-op average is $2.52 per watt. If you're getting charged that for a system, if you get a 8 kilowatt system, you're going to pay around $20,000 before any kind of incentive. Gross cost of $20,000. After the tax incentive, you're going to be still somewhere out about $15,000, right? So that's how much a solar system of 8 kilowatt size system is going to cost you. Average savings in that system, about $100 a month, right, for that first year. And we know that it's going to kind of grow as utility costs increase, inflation increases, so that over the course of the life of the system, which we're saying is 25 years, because that's the production warranties on the panels are 25 years. So we're going to say that they're going to at least be functional for 25 years. We know they're going to be functional a lot longer, but we can guarantee that or warranty that. So that system's going to produce a value of $36,200. So technically, you'll be profiting $21,282 over the life of that system. And the break even, if you can kind of look at it there, 15,000 over 10 years is 13,000. It's somewhere a little bit north of 10 years, 11, 12 years in that range for a system of that size. Again, you see that includes the federal tax credit in there, and that's where it's lined out. So that's it. This is a pretty important slide. And again, this is solar only. You add batteries to this. The economics don't pan out as well. Batteries aren't seen as producing value like solar is. They're more seen as an opportunity to become a little more sustainable, be off grid, or as a backup means. So just like you wouldn't necessarily look at a generator like it's going to pay itself off. It's more there for emergencies or to stabilize your home or your medical equipment, whatever it is. Same way you look at batteries. It's there to stabilize your home. It's there to help you go off grid or reach your sustainability sort of goals that you want to achieve. And we talked a little bit about home equity loan already. The EqualLink is a state program, the Cuyahoga County Help Loan. Residential PACE, so we saw that CPACE came on in 2010. RPACE, which is Residential Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, puts your energy improvements on your tax bill at a very low interest rate. And it's backed by the port authorities. Usually, I think the Lucas County Port Authority is backing a lot of these RPACE programs. And they're usually run on a city-by-city basis at a city level. So cities have to pass ordinances that would enable those. And so far, only a couple cities in the state have, and haven't gotten the programs up and running yet. So one of them, I think Grandview's working on it. There's another city up there working on it. Bexley, Ohio is working on it. I think Toledo's working on it too. Cleveland was working on it. I'll have to check in and see where they're at with it. So Lakewood, we're thinking about it. But we can have a whole discussion about our pace, but we'll save that for another day. When that comes online, we'll be certain to let you guys know. Traditional home equity loans are an option. Also refinancing, especially now with interest rates. My wife and I, we refinanced our house to do some improvements, including our solar system, and lowered our interest rate quite a bit. Installer financing. Every installer offers some internal products. Just be careful. Read the fine print, especially if you're solicited through Facebook ads. Maybe some of you read it up here through a Facebook ad. But if you're solicited through a Facebook ad, just read the fine print of those financial contracts. Don't sign on the line. Don't do anything without reading the entire agreement, because there's often balloon payments, variable interest rate loans, all kinds of things going on in there. Just be very careful. I'm not saying don't, just be careful what you're signing on to. There's some unscrupulous companies that are in the mix. Cash is always an option, and again, I just want to reinforce that 26% non-refundable tax credit is going to be lapsing at the end of this year, and it will be reduced to 22% next year, right? So it's not going away, but it's being reduced. It's going away at the end of 2021. So the co-ops, let me stop real quick. Finance is quite a dense section too. Any comments, questions about different financial products, or whatever you want to talk about really? Okay.
Just got a question in chat, actually. Are there seasonal limitations on installing?
Yeah, good. I'd say. I don't think that question's ever come up, but there certainly are. Most installers only work through about Thanksgiving, up until Thanksgiving. However, if you're considering a ground mount system, usually what installers do is they try to get all the rooftop work done, and residential work done up through that period, and then after Thanksgiving, they'll focus on larger ground mount, industrial, commercial, small commercial systems that are ground mounted or flat roofed. So that if you have a ground mount system, maybe you'll be able to get installed after that point. But honestly, your Thanksgiving is a cutoff. Can't be on a roof doing too much work in the winter here in Ohio. Safely. Great question. So the co-ops, kind of talked about this a bit. What they are is 30 to 50 people, or 30 to 150 people, depending on the area and the time frame and how hard we're working on it, the partners and all that. The size really varies. We get those folks together, and we're able to leverage that bulk, leverage that group to get a bulk purchasing rate, basically, on a discount on the whole solar array for each individual customer. So we'll negotiate that bid, and then we'll be able to offer that bid to each individual homeowner as an individualized proposal. So you'll have a number of options in your proposal. So what that means is if you join the co-op, here in the next week or two, you'd get you get an email from, probably less than that, a week, you get an email from the installer, maybe even a phone call saying, hey, welcome to co-op, here's the deal. And, what do you want to do? Give me your utility bills and we'll do a proposal for you. Not too different than calling an installer out of the blue and asking for a proposal, except that they'll have to give you the rate that was negotiated through the bidding process through the co-op, which is usually a little bit better. We highly encourage folks to get other proposals as well, and let us know too if there's better deals out there. We would love to kind of keep tabs, and being sort of a consumer protection oriented organization, we like to know what's going on in the market. So feel free to get other proposals and choose the options that work best for you.
Okay.
Yeah, question?
Well, I did print two, but the email ones, I couldn't get them printed properly.
Okay.
So you're returning things, I think. I got the music printed on it.
You said
yeah,
you got proposals printed? That you're talking about? Or somebody has their mic on, and it should be. Eric, can you mute that?
Yep, all good.
Okay. Very good. No worries. The times I've left.
Tristan, a question in chat just came in. Are we going to be coming to Columbus/Franklin County soon?
Yep, we just finished a co-op there earlier this year, but I'm really excited to get back because we've had so much interest. And I think had it not been for COVID, we probably have been back there by now. But yeah, later this year, we're going to start, we know we're going to be starting a co-op in Cincinnati because we're going to be working with the city of Cincinnati to do that. At the same time, we're probably going to be doing one in the Appalachia area down south. And hopefully, if not this year, early next year, doing one in Columbus. But it's going to be, so it'll be late this year or next year. If you really, really want to get moving in Columbus, I would highly encourage you to sign up for our membership program, which is free. It's the same kind of deal. We just offer to folks that aren't in co-op territories. So if you want to do that, send me an email if you live in Columbus, and we can at least get you to, point you in the right direction, and then we'll help you compare bids, help people compare proposals, make sure you're not getting a raw deal. It's kind of like a consumer protection service we offer, and we're a nonprofit. We don't charge for that kind of stuff. I don't think, right, Eric?
Sorry, what was that?
People can sign up for the membership program now at no charge.
The individual membership, I believe, is still $85.
Oh. Well, we'll get you in, don't worry. They're going to hate me, but we'll get you into the membership program for free if you're on this call. Limited time offer. All right, so yeah, it's going to stop me if you have more questions, but this is the process. In fact, I think this slide's a little bit confusing, but it takes a couple months to go through the whole process. Right now, at the co-op level here, for these 4 co-ops that are going on around the state, you'll see there's one in the Dayton area, there's one in the Summit area, there's one in Youngstown. We've combined the one in Youngstown with the Summit area because Youngstown didn't quite come together like I'd hoped. A couple of the groups who were supporting us, who are great groups, we just couldn't have the meetings in person, unfortunately, that we wanted to have to really get it off the ground because of COVID. But we're combining these 2 groups, and then Cuyahoga County is going real strong. We're at over 70 members in Cuyahoga County for this co-op. We'll probably hit 100 by the time we close the co-ops at the end of August. That's the deadline for people to sign up for the co-ops. All co-ops have already gone through the bid process, which is one of the cooler parts of everything we do, I think. So what we do is once we get to about the threshold of 30 individuals in the co-op, we then send an email out to everybody and say, hey, do you want to be part of this group that's going to get to review and select the installer for the group? We call that the selection committee process. So that group gets to sit down, and we just did this a couple days ago here in Cuyahoga County. We selected the installer for the group. Excuse me, we did it in Cuyahoga County last week. This week we did it in Youngstown and in Summit County. And it's super fun because we get to sit down there with a group of people that are really engaged and want to learn more, get to go through all the proposals, and they get to ask questions about these individual installers. Sometimes we call the installers and get more information shaded in. And then we select one of the installers. I don't select them. Our group doesn't. The members actually get to choose the installer. So it's a democratic process where you get to pick the installer for the whole group. Again, we've already gone through that process for this for these co-ops, but you know, the folks that are in the co-ops were the ones that selected the installer at the end of the day. So it's the pretty neat thing that we're able to engage folks on, get folks trained on, and then select that installer that's going to meet the needs of the group. Here's the process laid out in a little more detail. This was the Dayton co-op, which was one of the first of the four to go through this process. May 28th, the RFP was issued, so we sent out to our email list of installers the criteria for bidding, and then they bid, and all those bids were due on June 11th for the co-op. Then on June 20th, the selection committee met, and by June 27th, the installer was reaching out. So we give them a week to get the paperwork signed, to sign on to the proposal that they're gonna, you know, the deal they're gonna offer to folks, and then they start reaching out. And we also help with that outreach process. Then in August, for all co-ops, the contract deadlines come. Contract deadlines will happen for all groups at the end of September. Installs will begin then at that time, towards the end of December, towards the end of September. So through the end of September into October, installs will wrap up for Cuyahoga and for Akron Summit areas. Dayton will probably happen a little bit before that, like this indicates. In October, we should be celebrating, probably not in person, but we'll have some kind of celebration. We'll get to talk and talk about our experiences going solar and what we learned. And it's usually really fun, and we usually go out to a restaurant or someplace where we could order pizza and we hang out and talk about our experience, but not sure that's going to happen this year, which is sad, hopefully, but I doubt it. Again, here's the co-op territories. I want to also mention some of our partners that have helped us get these off the ground. One of the biggest partners we had is Cuyahoga County Sustainability Department. Has been phenomenal at doing outreach and funding the program up to this point. Cuyahoga, they've allowed us to do a lot of work. They've dedicated a lot of their own staff time to doing the outreach. And maybe some of you got a door hanger, or you've seen us in the observers or the newspapers, or heard about us through a community development organization. That was because of Cuyahoga County and the relationships. A phenomenal group. Ohio Environmental Council has been a partner of ours for a long time. Powering Clean Futures Ohio, which is a group helping cities become renewable, rely more on renewable energies, which is great. Then Drive Electric Ohio is that group we mentioned, that group of EV enthusiasts across the state. And then Greene Clean Energy for All is a group out of the Portage, Trumbull, Mahoning County areas. So great groups. Thank everyone for participating and helping us get to the point where we are. And again, these co-ops are all open through the end of August if you want to join. And how do you do that? You go to our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/Ohio. And from there, you can very easily, very quickly sign up and join the co-op. So that is about it. Love to field any more questions. If anybody has any more questions at this point.
Yep, we got a couple in chat. If I don't make it into the current Cuyahoga co-op, when would the next one likely form?
Cuyahoga's a little bit different because we have that contract with the county. We are obligated under a contract and paid to do it. So we will get the next one up and rolling probably towards the end of this year. That will be installing then early next year.
Great. And then what is the lifespan of a solar system built on the roof of a house? Also, any idea of what would need to be replaced after that lifespan is reached? Does it require complete rebuild, partial? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So there are some systems out there that were installed almost 30 years ago, very few. But there's a few. In fact, school district, which school district? Cuyahoga Falls, back in the 90s, early 90s, their school system put solar panels on their roofs of the school. And we're getting near the 30-year mark on those systems, and they're producing energy still. They're still working, and that's technology that's 30 years old. So in fact, one of the installers here in Cuyahoga County who had serviced one of the co-ops before has a master's degree in solar technology, and particularly the tempered glass that was used on the solar panels. And he had enlightened one of our information sessions who someone asked the same question. he believed, and I believe him, that solar systems that are built today, panels that are built today, likely have an expected life of 50 years. The panels that are installed on roofs likely will last 50 years. And I say the word likely because I don't want to be held to that. But that's where we're seeing the technology at today. That's the durability level we're seeing today, especially in Ohio, because Ohio has a pretty, an environment that's pretty friendly to panels. Out south, down south, where the sun is a little more intense, actually, and UV rays are a little more intense, panels might break down a little bit quicker, but before 50 years, maybe having to replace a panel. And these panels are all tested, by the way, in California. So in Ohio, we don't have as much of the environmental concerns that places like that have, and dust can be brutal on panels too. In Ohio, we really don't deal with that. Not like how Arizona and New Mexico and Texas have to deal with dust as well. So there's no real need to clean panels here either, which could increase the lifespan. Great question.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I live in Columbus. In terms of trying to get an installation done before Thanksgiving and being a member of some, I heard what you said about helping figure out, like the best installation and all that. Is there any chance that there's going to be more advantages with a co-op? I mean, is it possible a co-op will be in Columbus before?
Yeah. How about this? Eric, do you want to make a note of this? Like, let's reach out to Bob and see if we can get him into the Dayton co-op, since it's pretty close. Bob works out of Columbus. And his company is kind of, I think he's between Columbus and Dayton somewhere. But he's the the installer. The only reason that we have like geographical boundaries in the first place was so that installers could focus on that area and didn't have to worry about being all over the state for a co-op and really waste, sort of like giving us the best deal for that co-op territory and area. Columbus isn't too far from Dayton, so we'll see if we can get you added to the Dayton area co-op, which closes on August 31st. So Eric, can you remind me, or we can just collect your details and we can sort of get you the links and things of that, and we'll reach out to that installer to make sure it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And was that Brian just speaking?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. If you just want to email Tristan there, just send your name, address, and phone number. We will check in with the installer and then get back to you about signing up.
Yeah, the only place that's weird about that is Cuyahoga. We just have to make sure that we're respecting the county's contract with us. We don't have a contract like that in the Dayton area, so I'm pretty sure we can expand that and make exceptions as needed. Any other questions? Great questions. You guys are a good group.
We have another one in chat wondering, is there a plan for panels that completely age out? Are they recyclable? I recently saw an article about solar waste accumulating from older panels that have aged out.
Yeah. Actually, Henry did some work on this, didn't he, Eric? Our Pennsylvania State Director.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we can just send you that article, because there is some data on that, and there are programs in different places that will recycle panels. I'll also tell you, there are some groups that, I think there's some serious research done on this topic, and there are some concern, right? But there are also some groups that are advocating for oil and gas that have put out a lot of misinformation about solar and some of the negative, the environmental costs of solar. We know that's just not true. We know that solar, even if you take into account the energy it takes to make a panel and the environmental impact creating a single solar panel has, that the life being 30 to 50 years has a massively positive benefit on the environment, right? Even when you're taking into account the disposal of that system. And the components of a solar system, by the way, are mainly aluminum, which is highly recyclable, glass, which is, it's recyclable. It could be melted down and it could be reused, and silicon, which is basically glass, right? It's just a different form of And it's one of the most common elements, found in the Earth's crust. So I don't know what component would not be recyclable in a solar panel. They're not toxic. They're just sort of, when you break them down, they're not hazardous. Yeah, good question.
I think at this point too, the solar cells themselves, while they are technically recyclable materials, unfortunately, there's not really a cost-effective way for manufacturers to recycle them in mass. So I think that's a big part of the problem. It's just kind of cheaper for people to, leave the panels in a landfill than properly recycle them. But I know that companies are, developing ways to hopefully improve that and get everything fully recycled. So I did also post a link in the chat with just some basic information on solar panel recycling. It has a list of companies that provide this service, so you can check that out if you were curious.
Great, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Better than me talking. Believe me. All right. Any other last questions here before we call it a day? This is a great session. One of the better ones we've had in the last couple of months.
Yeah, a lot of good questions today.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have my email, my phone number. It's myself. Feel free to call, text, whatever, and get at me if you have other questions, comments, concerns. And join the co-op. By the way, joining the co-op's free. There's no obligation to join. The only time you'll be obligated to do anything is if you end up signing a contract with that installer. That's the only time you'll have any obligation. So I got a question here. How long would it take to install a system from planning to installation? Yeah. So once you get a proposal, you can sign that proposal. Like usually the proposal comes with some contract language you can sign on to, or they can send you right away the next day a contract based on that proposal. From that point, it can take up to 4 weeks, something like that. It can take a month to get you scheduled to do that installation. So generally what it is, 9 times out of 10, it's a month, maybe even sooner to get the installers out to do that installation. Then the installation itself takes a day. Sometimes it takes 2 days, depending on, how long, how big of an installation or where the boxes are and where the different equipment's going to be. So a day to 2 days and you're done. So 1 month, 1 to 2 months, we'll say, to be safe. Yeah. And if there's some back and forth on the proposal, by the way, it might take a little bit longer. So they gave me a proposal for my house for a smaller system because they figured I wouldn't want to go a full 100% of my energy need. But I opted for a bigger system. So the next day they sent me a new proposal with a larger system, gladly, right? Gladly do more than less. And I ended up signing that contract that week. And then later that month, I sent my check in, my down payment check, and they started the install. And I took a day and a half to do. I came the first day and got it all laid out and spec'd out, and drew on my roof and figured out where they're going to make their holes and stuff and everything. And then they installed the system the next day and it was done. So you said through installation. There's also a step beyond installation called interconnection. So there are some permits. Your system, once it's installed, needs to be inspected by the city, and then utility has to come out and swap out your meter. That is highly volatile to pay. It can be all over the place. In Lakewood, it took a day or two. They came the day after, a couple days after the system was installed, inspected. In 10 minutes, I was good. Can expect that from a city that's pretty good. I'm a Lakewood councilman, so I'm allowed to boast about my city. Other cities may not be as quick, or counties may even have some process. Historic district, HOAs, permitting, things like that has to happen as well. So there is that layer on top of that. Good question. EcoLink. So how long to get EcoLink? EcoLink plan for efficiency optimization and for solar installation. Oh, I get it. And then financing to come through. So I can talk better about the help loan. EcoLink I don't have much experience with, and I've had some folks tell me it's hard to find a banker that has much experience in EcoLink. It is offered to the Treasury Department. People have done it. The county help loan, which is a similar product, it's a one-page extra additional form you have to do, and it can delay the process up to a couple of weeks, depending on how long the county takes to approve that form, and to get the right things issued to the bank. So it can extend the process a couple of weeks, 10 business days or so.
Will the county help loan pay for like new windows and that sort of optimization?
The sustainability director in the county loves to talk about his solar system that he used the help loan for, and how he got his windows done at the same time. You could do your driveway. There's a list of things you can use it for, fix up your basement, as long as it's a home improvement type piece. Yeah. Is there any way to connect people who were in previous co-ops? That's a great question. Something that we're working on right now, and I think if we weren't for COVID, we'd be a little further at this. But I would love to facilitate some local group meetings about the co-ops, right? Have the former co-op members come and meet the new co-op members, things like that. But certainly, Amy, we can connect you with some folks that have gone solar through the co-op. If you want to send me an email to that email address, love to connect you with a few folks that have gone through the co-op. You can also ask in our Facebook group. A lot of people in our Facebook group, Solar United Neighbors of Ohio, are former co-op members who've gone solar and would love to share their experience. We have something called a listserv too, as a Google group, but that's kind of an old technology. I don't really pay much attention to it. I should probably write in. Well, we're quite a bit over, so I'll end it there so people can get on with their day. But thank you. This has been a wonderful experience, and thank you for sharing some of your day with me. And get at me if you have more questions. I'm usually available. Love talking about this stuff. So, yeah, you guys have a wonderful Saturday. Enjoy this weather, and we will catch up with you soon.
Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good one.
Thanks.